He was a millionaire's son, living a life of comfort, until he met a beggar girl on a train. What started as a chance encounter turned his world upside down: betrayal, heartbreak, and secrets that could destroy everything he worked for. But one woman's courage and love might just change his fate forever. Watch till the end to see how a life of struggle became a story of triumph that no one saw coming. I was 23, traveling back from college, lost in the illusion of privilege. The train rocked beneath me, rattling my restless thoughts. Then I saw her. She sat on the floor, knees drawn, eyes hollow but burning with a strange fire. She begged quietly, almost invisible to everyone else. Something in her gaze pierced me. It was not despair. It was a challenge. I tried to look away. I could not. Days passed. I found excuses to return to the train. I offered her food, a seat, a smile. She accepted none of my pity. Instead, she spoke truths I had never wanted to hear. She called out my arrogance. She laughed at my excuses. And she showed me courage in a world I thought I controlled. Months later, I was broke, cut off from my family fortune for defying their plans. I had nothing but debts and the relentless grind of starting anew. She stayed. She worked beside me, her hands raw, her voice steady. She taught me that hard work is not just effort, it is patience, wisdom, and honesty. There were nights I cried in the darkness, convinced I would fail. She held me, whispering that failure is not the end, but the forge of greatness. She gave me more than love. She gave me belief. And then, betrayal came in a form I never expected. A trusted partner, a business I had built with sweat and hope, turned against me. It felt like the world was collapsing. But she, quiet yet fierce, refused to let me fall. I realized then that true wealth is not gold, nor land, nor titles. It is the courage to rise when all seems lost. And the strength to carry love as a shield against despair. That day, on a rain-soaked street, I made a choice. I would not surrender. I would rebuild. I would succeed. But little did I know, the twist awaiting us would test every lesson, every heartbeat. We started again from nothing. A tiny office, a single desk, and the echo of our dreams. Every morning, I rose before dawn. She rose with me. Her hands blistered from labor, yet her eyes never wavered. She reminded me that success is earned, not inherited. There were days when clients laughed at us. When doors slammed in our faces. When promises vanished like smoke. I wanted to give up. But she said, "You do not quit on the heart that believes." Slowly, the tide began to turn. A small contract here, a loyal customer there. Every victory felt fragile, but it was ours. And through it all, I watched her quietly inspire everyone around us. Her kindness became our currency. Her wisdom became our strategy. One evening, after a day that crushed my spirit, I returned to the office. I found her sitting alone, writing in her notebook. She looked up and smiled. "Do you see it yet?" she asked. I shook my head. She pointed to the ledger, filled with numbers I barely recognized. "This is more than money. This is proof that your heart can build what your mind dreams." I realized then that every struggle, every betrayal, every sleepless night, had been a step toward something greater. But the real test had not come yet. Because just when we began to taste the first whispers of triumph, a shadow from my past reappeared. Someone who could undo everything we had fought for. Someone who knew my weaknesses, my fears, my secrets. I wanted to run. She gripped my hand and said, "You do not run from what you are meant to face." Her eyes held fire and mercy at once. I knew she was right. But the question remained, could we survive what was coming? The answer would not be easy. And it would demand everything we had built together. The knock on the door came just as the rain began to pound against the windows. My heart sank before I even saw the face. It was him, the man who had once called himself a friend. The one who had watched me fall and now returned to claim what we had built. He smiled, but it was not kindness. It was hunger. He knew my fears. He knew every weak spot I had tried to hide. And for the first time, I felt the old panic rising, choking my chest. I looked at her. She did not flinch. Her hands were steady. Her voice calm as she said, "Do not let fear decide your story. You decide it." I swallowed hard, remembering every moment she had been my anchor. The nights she stayed while I worked alone. The days she carried the weight of my mistakes without complaint. She had given me courage I never knew I possessed. I stepped forward. Every word I spoke was deliberate, every motion precise. He tried to intimidate. He tried to shake my resolve. But I stood taller than I ever had. Because I was no longer just a man chasing wealth. I was a man fighting for the life we had built together, for the love that had made me strong. Hours passed like a storm. He left, but not before warning me that this was only the beginning. That more challenges would come. I sank into the chair, exhausted, trembling. She knelt beside me, brushing rain-soaked hair from my forehead. "You survived," she whispered. "And tomorrow, you will rise again." I realized then that true power is not in money, or influence, or status. It is in the resilience to face betrayal. In the patience to endure suffering. And in the heart to trust someone even when the world seems against you. And yet, as we cleaned the shattered remnants of the day, I felt it, the sense that the storm had not passed. Something bigger was coming. Something that would demand more than courage, more than love, more than everything we thought we knew about ourselves. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, but it brought no warmth. I stood at the edge of our office, staring at the chaos of papers, contracts, and unpaid invoices. Every number reminded me of the enemy's words from last night. Every debt whispered doubt in my ears. She appeared behind me, quiet as a shadow. Her hand rested on my shoulder, firm but gentle. "You know what must be done," she said. Her eyes burned with a clarity I envied. I nodded, knowing she was right. I had to face it all. We began with calls, meetings, and relentless research. Every day tested my limits. Every rejection cut deeper than the last. But she was always there, coaching me, guiding me, reminding me of the fire inside. I realized then that she had not just saved me from despair. She had shaped the man I had become. One evening, after a 12-hour marathon, I collapsed in the chair. My body was broken, my mind exhausted, but my spirit refused to surrender. She knelt beside me, placing a hand on my chest. "You are not alone," she whispered. "And the world will soon see what I see." Weeks passed. Small victories began to appear like fragile sparks in the darkness. A client agreed to a meeting. A loan was approved. A team joined us, drawn by her integrity, drawn by the strength we carried together. Every step forward felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. But I could not stop. I would not stop. Then came the message that made my heart skip. An anonymous tip, a secret that could destroy everything we had built. I read it once, twice, and the third time I felt my world tilt. It spoke of betrayal, inside our walls, closer than I had imagined. And just as I was about to confront it, she placed her hand over mine. "Trust the heart that has never failed you," she said. "But be ready for what comes next." I looked at her and understood. This was not just a test of business. This was a test of everything we had fought for: love, trust, resilience, and courage. And the next move would decide whether we would rise higher than ever, or fall into a pit we could never escape. The night was heavy with tension. The office was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. I could feel it, eyes watching us, waiting for a single mistake. I had learned to trust few, but this time, the danger felt closer than ever. She sat across from me, calm and composed. Her eyes reflected the dim light like fire against steel. "I have seen this before," she said softly. "Pain and betrayal are not walls. They are tests. And tests are only meaningful if you rise stronger." I nodded, but inside, fear clawed at me. The anonymous message had named names, people I thought were allies. And now, the doubt was suffocating. Every handshake, every smile, every promise suddenly seemed false. We devised a plan. Careful, deliberate, unflinching. We would confront the threat, but not recklessly. Every move had to count. Every word, every decision, was a step on a razor's edge. Days blurred into nights. The tension in my chest became a constant companion. But she never wavered. When I faltered, she reminded me of the man I had become, the one she had seen in me long before I had believed it myself. Then, one evening, it happened. The betrayal revealed itself, not in words, but in action. A trusted team member, someone we had celebrated and relied upon, attempted to sabotage our most important deal. Documents vanished. Calls were intercepted. Our reputation was at risk. I felt rage and despair rise like wildfire. She touched my hand, grounding me. "Control what you can. Let the rest teach you." I acted quickly, retracing every step, uncovering the threads of deceit. But just as I thought we had contained the damage, I received a call that froze my blood. It was from the very client we had risked everything for. Their voice was calm, polite, and deadly in its meaning. They said 4 words that shattered certainty. "We need to talk. Now." I looked at her, heart pounding, mind racing. She smiled faintly, but her eyes were sharp with warning. "Remember," she said, "this is the moment that decides who we truly are." I realized then that everything we had built, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear, was about to be tested in a way we had never imagined. The conference room felt colder than the storm outside. I entered with her at my side, every step heavy with anticipation. The client sat behind a polished mahogany desk, expression unreadable. Their eyes were calm, but I could feel the weight of judgment pressing down. I swallowed hard. The papers we had worked on for weeks lay between us. I knew one wrong word, one hesitation, and everything could crumble. My hand brushed hers. She nodded ever so slightly. Her presence was the anchor I needed. They spoke first. "We have seen the inconsistencies," they said. My stomach sank. The betrayal had left traces that even our careful work could not completely erase. I felt the panic rising, clawing at my chest. But she leaned closer. "Speak truth," she whispered. "Do not hide. Do not fear." I took a deep breath. I told them everything, every mistake, every obstacle, every sabotage attempt. No excuses. No hiding. Only honesty. The room was silent. I felt exposed, fragile, and afraid. Then they leaned back. A pause that felt like eternity. And finally, the words came. "Your integrity matters more than perfection," they said. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. But before I could fully exhale, their gaze sharpened. "There is one condition." I braced myself. My heart pounded in my ears. They continued, "You must recover what was lost. You must face the source of the betrayal. And you must prove that nothing, no one, can derail your vision." I looked at her. Her eyes were steady, unwavering, full of fire. She reached for my hand and squeezed it. "We knew this day would come," she said. "But the real battle is not out there. It is here. She placed her hand on my chest. Your courage. Your belief. Your heart. That is what will make us unstoppable. I nodded, feeling the weight of the challenge settle on my shoulders. The storm outside raged harder. And in that moment, I understood, our fight was far from over. The next move would define everything we had sacrificed, everything we had built. And whether our love, our strength, and our resilience could survive the ultimate test. The next morning, I walked into the building with a weight in my chest that felt heavier than iron. Every corridor, every office door, seemed to whisper doubt. But she walked beside me, calm, unwavering. Her presence reminded me that courage is contagious. We started with small steps, reviewing every account, every contract, every signature. The betrayal had left scars, but we refused to let it define us. Hours turned into days. I learned to see the threads I had missed, the subtle manipulations hidden in plain sight. She guided me, not with orders, but with quiet insight that cut through the fog of my fear. Then, late one evening, I caught him, the one who had betrayed us. He was attempting to erase files, to cover the truth. I confronted him. His face twisted with arrogance and panic. He lunged with excuses, threats, lies. I could feel my temper rising, my old self, the naive, reckless son, wanting to lash out. But she stepped forward, placing a hand on my arm. Do not fight him with anger, she said. Fight him with truth. Fight him with proof. Fight him with patience. I nodded. Her wisdom grounded me. We gathered the evidence, exposed the betrayal to everyone involved, and turned the tables. But the victory felt incomplete. There was a shadow over us, a lingering threat I could not yet name. The very next day, an unexpected call came. A major investor, the one who could make or break our future, wanted to meet immediately. They had heard whispers of the sabotage. They wanted assurance. They wanted confidence. And they wanted to know if we could deliver, despite everything. I looked at her. Her eyes were steady, a flame of belief that refused to die. She whispered, "This is it. This is the moment we have prepared for." We stepped into the elevator, the city lights flickering below. My heart raced with anticipation and fear. I knew that the next hour could define our entire future. It could lead to triumph, or ruin. The doors opened. And the investor waited, calm, assessing, and silent. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of every decision, every sacrifice, every tear. The words I spoke next would either secure our future or shatter it completely. The investor's gaze was sharp, weighing every word I spoke. I told the truth, about the betrayal, the setbacks, the long nights, and the relentless work. I spoke not just of numbers, but of the lessons we had learned, the integrity we had fought to preserve, and the partnership that had made it all possible. She stood beside me, silent but present, a quiet force of strength that spoke louder than any pitch. The room felt heavy with tension, but also charged with hope. I could feel every heartbeat, every breath, every ounce of determination converging in that moment. After what felt like an eternity, the investor leaned back and smiled. Your courage, your honesty, and your resilience are rare, they said. You do not just deserve success. You have earned it. Relief and joy surged through me, but I looked at her and realized, this was never just about money. It was about the journey, the struggle, and the people who refuse to abandon you when the world turns against you. We had faced betrayal, loss, and fear. We had fought when every step seemed impossible. We had built not only a business, but a life grounded in trust, love, and perseverance. And in that victory, I saw the truth: success is measured not by wealth alone, but by the strength of your heart and the loyalty of those who walk with you. Years later, when people asked how I became a millionaire, I did not speak of deals or contracts. I spoke of her. Her unwavering belief. Her courage. Her love. The moral is simple: the world will challenge you, betray you, and test you. You will stumble, you will hurt, and you will fear. But if you hold on to integrity, work relentlessly, and cherish those who lift you, there is no limit to what you can achieve. And sometimes, the person who changes your life is not someone with wealth or status, but someone who believes in you when you cannot believe in yourself. Thank you for listening this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share, comment below and remind someone.